Alright, so this is going to be a bit of a different video. Thought I'd give a little tour of part of my radio collection, so this is the main storage and display room that I've got going. So if we start over on the left side of the room, this is where I keep my Radiola collection. So this is really the first brand that I liked, as RCA is probably my favorite out of all the different manufacturers. And I really liked their late 20s, early AC powered sets. So I started trying to find all the main table models and all the speakers that went with them, tubes and paraphernalia and everything else. So I've got just about everything. And in no particular order, got this Radiola 44 here. Unfortunately, the dial is gone. It's one of those projection style. There's a piece of clear plastic with a sort of a opaque yellow film over it with an arrow pointer that'll aim, and then the actual dial wheel is a perforated metal band the light shines through and then projects onto it, which is kind of neat. This one, unfortunately, from what I can tell, suffered a transformer failure. The rectifier tube, one of the plates had a giant hole burned right through it, and I can't get any continuity through it to power it up, so that's not great, but I have a 46 elsewhere that I'm hoping has a good power transformer, and I might try to make one good set out of the two and then go on the hunt for another transformer. Anyway, so I got the 46. I've got the somewhat hard to find in good condition 33. It's a bit of a mess in here. The Radiola 33 is this sort of unique styling that's, I think it was intended to fit in with Oriental furniture, which was pretty popular in the late 20s, early 30s, not so much anymore. And it also has the matching 100B speaker with that sort of sunburst pattern cloth on there. Both of these are in original condition. Unfortunately, the 33s don't weather time very well because while the bottom of it is actually made out of wood, all the panels are stamped steel, and they are painted with a faux wood grain pattern that tends to just get obliterated. You can actually see if we look down by the dial knob, it's worn around the edges pretty badly, so this is the best condition one I could find in my area, and it still had the legs attached to it, which is great. I also actually have a donor chassis with some extra parts in case that one's got extremely bad problems, but really this is just a Radiola 18 with some minor changes electrically. Above both of these guys, we've got the Model 100 speaker and a whole bunch of associated early Cunningham and RCA tubes, as well as this really cool pamphlet that I got for some of Cunningham's stuff. There's an early 200 detector tube up there. And then towards the middle, this is actually the first Radiola I ever got. This is my Radiola 60. The cabinet I never actually finished. I still got to do that. I didn't grain fill it, which, you know, you can't really tell in camera, but when you look at it in person, you can see all of the grain is deeper. It's not nice and smooth, and it drives me nuts looking at it. It's, yeah, I'll finish that later, give it a semi-gloss finish. But the chassis, I completely rebuilt. Power supply and everything. I pulled all these cans. I painted the entire thing inside and out so it's all nice and uniform. It does work. I aligned it, and these are a bit tricky because I had to pick out the best 27 tubes that I had because this is all 27s and 71A for the power output. It's not the most fun because you have to have like a dud 27 to neutralize the stages, because this is actually a super het. Yeah, I mean, I paid, I think, $35 for this set, and it does still work. At least it should after all the work I've done to it. And I melted out all the wax inside the main condenser can and replaced all of them and replaced the wiring, made it all look original. But I also have the nice matching Model 103 speaker, as well as a ad to go with it. I've been trying to find advertisements for all the radios in my collection so that they have something to display with, so that it looks nice. And below it, we actually have, this is a Graybar 330, which is just a Radiola 60 by a different name. Graybar actually, I guess, got the rights to produce the chassis and then put their own badge on it, but it's the same exact thing. You can swap them out and you wouldn't notice. But it also came with Graybar's version of the Model 106 electrodynamic loudspeaker table. And this one really is a table that fits the whole thing. This came as a package deal. And it's really nice. I gotta refinish this table. It's got some splotches of paint on it, and there's some really bad runs in some of these areas. I'm not sure if that was original, but I wouldn't have bought if that's how it looked. The finish looks just kind of cheap at the moment, like somebody stripped it and then just threw a coat of varnish or something over it and didn't bother coloring at all. And then on the right we have the real Model 106. I got this one. I was really lucky for 60 bucks, and it has all three of the tapestries in great shape. There are some missing spots that are a bit threadbare, but overall, you know, it hasn't been destroyed by cats. And on top of it, I've got a nice condition Radiola 16 that I got from a fellow collector. I had a Radiola 16 there, but it was pretty roached. The finish on the outside was totally destroyed, and this one is in fabulous original shape. And then I've got a Radiola 18 hanging out up here. This one I need to give a finish to. It does work. Haven't recapped it yet. But I did get lucky, and I managed to find an original lamp hood. The 17s and 18s have this pressed, I don't know if it's pressed brass. I think it's pressed brass, just like the escutcheons, hood for the lamp bulb. And they attach on there with a pair of stamped hooks almost. And then they fit in there, and then you're supposed to bend them over so that they lock. And I've seen people replace them with like plastic spoons. There was a guy that was doing reproductions of these for a while, but I think I paid $75 just to get that hood, which is more than the whole radio is even worth restored. So you're not in this for the money, really. This Reliable up here is actually it's a flat surface that I had available, and I needed somewhere to put it. I'm going to wind up getting rid of this because I just got a very, very nice Stromberg Carlson set to take its place for... I try not to collect too much battery stuff because I don't have a power supply yet for them. But speaking of that, I do have a Radiola 3 with a pair of good WD-11s still in it. That was a bonus. And a UZ1325 loudspeaker, or a horn to go with that. So, very, very nice. And for some speakers, we've got this rather nice one here. Unfortunately, I can find no manufacturer information on it. It's not a paper cone. It's sort of a woven material, and it does work. Driver's a bit weak, I think, but it's a horseshoe magnet style, so it probably needs to be recharged. But yeah, that's in beautiful shape. We've also got my my Atwater Kent. I think it's a Model E. This was in nice, complete condition, but I made the idiotic mistake of pulling the cone and driver out of it, leaving them on a table, and then something fell on it and punched the driver right out of the cone. Yeah, I am still extremely upset with myself over that. That'll have to get repaired. I've got to drill the rivets out of the driver, pull the remnants of the cone in, and hopefully I can carefully glue them back together and then reattach it to the driver. Yeah, it happens. It's Murphy's Law. Also got some other neat little tube bits. This is actually a Sylvania dealership, or it's a thermometer that looks like an ST tube. I just thought it was neat. Oh no, this isn't Sylvania. This is Tungsol. Yeah. Some other little 1920s bits, like these early airline tuning condensers if you're making your own radio set. I've got two of these 100A speakers. This one I completely refinished the outside. I don't have the grill cloth for it yet. I have the speakers, I need to get grill cloth and cords, and I have another one, but I haven't finished patching all the pock marks from the pot metal that's expanded outward. There's chunks of it all over, and I've been working on that. To make these easier to put the speaker back in, because these holes here, it all tends to expand out, I oversized them by just one drill bit size up from original to make it fit easier on both sides, and you can't really tell. Worked out pretty well. Unfortunately, it doesn't sit flat anymore because the whole thing's starting to wave. That's pretty typical with pot metal. And then below that, I have a Magnavox electrodynamic speaker here, which it's got some veneer issues. I've stripped a lot of the cabinet on that one, and I was working on it for a while. But that'll be an interesting rebuild. This guy isn't actually really supposed to be in here. It just had the free space and I moved him up. This is actually a Zenith. It's a 400 series. I forget which one it is. But it was just so cool, I couldn't pass it up at the show I was at. It's actually got the automatic tuning option. This is it's a mechanical tuner, so you know you have a bunch of switches. You just press down and it rotates. But what's neat, I didn't realize this, is the tuning knob, which I don't have a knob on there though, is designed, let's see if I can show this, it's designed to click left and right to disengage or engage that mechanism. It doesn't really want to lock, but yeah, the idea is you can lock out the operation so that you can't use the knob, and you've got tone control, you've got, you know, visible volume control, and a tuning indicator, which is pretty nifty. And I also love is that these were really meant to be part of the house, and if you wanted to cover up the fact that it was a radio, then the whole thing conceals with these very beautiful quarter-sawn veneer doors. The top on this one is, however, pretty badly warped, which is unfortunate, which is why this door doesn't actually engage. Probably there's a channel that runs on the inside that it's supposed to hook into, and this door right here doesn't stay shut because the dimple on top does not stay in its ball detent because it's too far up. Not sure how I'm going to figure that out. The top is pretty badly damaged by humidity. Yeah. Let's see, one of my Nixie clocks that I built. And then we got this shelf up here where I store a bunch of my spare tubes. Also got some of my tube literature, a lot of manuals, some spare boxes and things. Freshman Masterpiece battery set that I have. I didn't realize how cheap of a manufacturer they were until I bought it. I'll probably try to get that one up and running, but I'll probably get rid of that later on. And then these are probably the only crystal sets that I have. I don't really care too much for crystal stuff. It's neat, but it's not really my thing. I just have them because they were there and they were cheap. This really cool British crystal receiver. I have actually tested this. It does work. The Hunka Galena crystal in there is all still good. So that's just a neat set to have. Got that from Lord Collector. Okay, we have a modified... Someone added some posts to this loose coupler and tried to make a full radio out of it, but there's no capacitor in there, so there's a Hunka Galena crystal and a holder for it with a cat's whisker, but with no capacitor, you're not going to tune anything in. And then this splendid senior set that I found at an antique store for all 30 bucks with a good 200 detector in it. That's cool. Unfortunately, the Bakelite piece for the tuning knob is gone. Pointer's still there, but nah, it's just kind of cool. Colster 6D, got from a relative. This thing, unfortunately, the Colsters use pot metal for all the control knobs on the inside, and all of mine are wrecked. They're all swollen and misshapen. And there's a gentleman on the forum that's been working on 3D printing brand new ones, but I think I'm just going to try and preserve this as best I can, clean it, make it look good on the outside. It'll probably never work again, which is sad because this thing is an 8 tube battery set. So you've got 4 tune stages, and it's pretty incredible. And then down here I've got some battery accessories. You've got a Majestic Super B battery eliminator. I've got a Webster Chicago battery eliminator. You don't see that too often. One of these cheap Lemco crystal sets. I'm sorry you can't see it that well. Lighting's, I got one bulb to work with here. And then this guy, which is kind of cool. This is a Rex automatic switch. So the idea is you hook this up to your battery radio setup, and it's intended to turn off the battery charger, the A battery trickle charger, when you pull the power switch on your set, and then it kicks on the B eliminator power. So you've got 2 outlets and then these binding posts for the one of the connections to the A battery. So it's just thought that was kind of neat, and it's also still got the adapter so you can screw it into a light socket. And what else? Oh yeah, and I've got all my, well, this is not all my 1930s sets. I've got plenty of consoles that are not in here. Let's see, $5 airline set that's totally roached on the inside. That's going to be a basket case project. I didn't pay me anything for it, so I don't feel too bad. Another airline tabletop, a Zenith 705? It's either 704 or 705. That's my mom's. I can't mess with that. I'll get it working, but that's hers. Cadet, that's a ballast tube set. I'm probably going to let that go. I don't really care too much for the styling. It's not all that cool looking. Got a Zenith 5J217 with what I'm pretty sure is a Montgomery Ward's Airline escutcheon screwed to the front of it. There should be a brass insert ring. I've yet to find a replacement for it, but it had all the knobs, and it's one of those 6-volt farm sets that also has a 120-volt transformer, so there's a switch on the back. You can change it. This is probably the most original radio I have, this Philco 84B. The finish, the labels on the inside, the cord, the plug, all the capacitors, all the tubes, everything is original Philco. It doesn't work, sadly, but I am leaving it exactly the way it is because I just don't want to mess with it. It's too neat. And then this is the only... This is kind of sad. This is the only fully restored radio I have in the room right now. This is my Airline movie dial set. I just got one of the missing knobs for it. But I gave the whole thing a nice new semi-gloss finish, and it really looks good. Wish I had I'll try to do better photography someday of it, but yeah. The projection sets actually have a reel of 35mm film that rotates this way, and then there's a mirror and projection system that passes the light through the film, bounces it off a mirror, and then projects it onto a piece of opaque glass on the front, and you have all the call letters for the various radio stations and the frequency they're at listed on there, and then the band switch actually operates. You can see the chassis kind of moving there. The rubber mounting grommets aren't holding it very well. That actually lifts the film reel up and down because there's 3 separate sections for foreign, police, and regular broadcast. It's kind of cool. What else? I like cathedral sets like everybody else. So we've got an Atwater Camp Model 944. Let's see. Oh, we got this cute little Delco guy here. It's a little 5-tube set. I just love these little airplane dial sets, but it's just, I don't know, it feels very solid. Very simple styling, not a lot of toning going on. That'll probably clean up good. I got this General Electric fish mouth. This is an A70. These are cool because the band selection is actually a rotating drum. They also made one, is it the Colorama or Colormatic, something like that, that actually has various colored light bulbs on the inside to indicate which band you're using. But they're not operated by a switch. They're operated by a varying inductance or varying reactance. Kind of trippy. It's also got fine and coarse tuning, where if you only barely move the knob, you get fine tuning, but then if you move it past a certain point, you get coarse. Got 1 or 2 sets that have that feature. Extra books, radio. There's some Philco 60B. And a Canadian Westinghouse. What was this, an 1101? No, that's my got a Grunow. It's an 1101. This has got a really neat sort of, was it an octagonal? No, I forget how many sides it has. Don't laugh. It's just a neat set. This one also has a fine tuning setting. You can pull and push the knob in, but this one needs some work, and of course I only have the one knob, and I don't even know if that one's original to it. But it's also just a 5-tube set, but a number of the tubes are actually engraved Made in Canada on them for Westinghouse, and they have a unique script, which is pretty cool. Also taking up space in this room, we've got Stromberg Carlson. There's a 190M, or no, 140M. The cabinet on this I completely stripped. Once the weather gets nice, I'm going to refinish this for my grandmother. It's an 8-tube set with an I-tube, but it's going to look pretty. I've also got a pulley cabinet for an Atwater Kent 55C. The chassis is still in here. The cabinet's not in great shape. The doors, I don't know what it is. They pulled the door pulls off, and they stole the tuning knob. I got another tuning knob for the 55C chassis, but it just does not want to screw into the original shaft, and I'm not sure if there's a part missing or if the threads are stripped out because someone messed with it too much. I'll mess with that later. What else we have? Oh yeah, I've got 2 of these Recreator speakers. RK Labs radio keg radio that I got for $20 on Let's Go. That thing needs some help, sadly. It's a pretty rare set. Philco Jr. down here I got for 20 bucks at the last meet that also needs some help. Someone stole the audio interstage transformer out of this thing, as well as the knobs and the screws and some of the tubes, and yeah, you know how it goes. And my personal favorite, besides this Stromberg Carlson that I picked up at another meet with my other recreator, I've got a stack of Motorola VT71 televisions that I'm going to be working on. Only 2 of these are salvageable. The top one here is actually a Channel 1 cabinet, but it's got a J series chassis in it, so that wouldn't be Channel 1. It's actually got a sticker on the back saying it's set for channels 2 through 13, or which exact channels it has, because it's only got 8 positions on the channel selector, so you don't get all of them. But yeah, at the best, I've got 3 functional 7JP4 picture tubes, so that's a bonus. And yeah, I've got a lot more stuff packed away in here, but I thought I'd just try and hit more of the highlights. But thanks for watching, and hope to see you in the next one.